This video is to show post-processing of a 3D object. In this case we're using a spider. As you can see, it's not exactly scary and doesn't look very spiderish. To help us, we're using some magnets, and underneath this base I've actually got a steel rule, which is why it's holding so well. So place the spider on top of the magnets, upside down in this case. As you can see, it was originally very, very flat. A magnet on top will then help to hold the position, so it's now off the base. Now, this is actually printed in a wood version of the PLA. As you can see here, I'm just starting up with what is normally a soldering iron, but in this case I have the heat gun accessory on the top. Pulling back the cover, setting the gas on and igniting it. Quick spark. So you can get a nice little blue flame, which then turns into a nice red heat inside with the catalyst. Close up the surface and we can have a look at the spider. So what are we doing now? We're using this to actually heat up the plastic of the spider from the print, just gently, and you can probably see from the shadows where the legs then fall down. We're only doing it at the very knuckle end, just by the spider body, and this heat is just enough to be able to deform the spider. One thing though, you must keep the end of the iron away from that magnet. A couple of times in this video, which I've had to edit out, the soldering iron jumped towards the magnet. Anyway, as you can see here, subtle bends, nice and simple. Just gentle bit of pressure on that one. Now, that's obviously got the legs going the way we don't normally expect from a spider, facing upwards. So let's turn this spider over. And now we can see quite clearly the legs are going upwards. Because what we normally have on a spider is the legs going up from the body and then down again. So again, we can use the heat gun on the next knuckle. Now, being it's a wood-based version of the plastics, as you heat it up, if you keep it hot enough, then it'll actually change colour rather than just melt. Now this actually gives nice colours to the little knuckles on the spider and makes it look a bit better. You can probably see the movement slightly better by looking at the shadows rather than the actual legs. Sometimes it needs a little bit of help because it's slightly melted in the wrong place. You do have to hold it for a short while, just while the plastic goes solid again. It obviously has to cool down to do that. A little bit of artistic bending. As you know, this one's got a slight twist in it as well. Just needs to be put right, so that needs to be held down just for a bit. It's useful actually to look online and see what spiders' positions are actually like, because you can make these into all sorts of positions, and by changing the height of the magnets to start with, you can easily poise it into different heights. So here we go with the next knuckle, producing a reasonable amount of heat here. Not too high because it starts to bubble very quickly. where to actually start to burn the plastic rather than just change the colour of, just charring the wood part of the plastic. There we go, and it's nicely folded down. A bit more colour on this knuckle. Now, the very, very front. Again, nice to be able to move these in a slight position. A bit more delicate here because we don't want to go actually down to the ground. But as you can see, as soon as you start to warm it up, it's off. Have a little time, so a bit of help from a scalpel to hold it. So that you can get a fairly reasonable position. Right, so it's coming along. Still not super interesting as a spider, it just still looks like much more like a 3D print. So let's remove the top magnet. So we have our spider, which is now a three-dimensional object, and let's move these holder magnets. What we need to do now is just give it a bit more colour and some pattern. So again, using the hot air gun, we can slowly char the wooden part of the plastics and give some interesting lines into the spider. You do need to take your time here to get a nice pattern and get the charring of exactly the right depth that you require. Hope you're not getting bored. This is a full-length video to show everything that I've been doing here. Show how to build up the pattern. And what I've done at this point is to slightly increase the heat from the heat gun, just to make it go a bit faster. That chars the surface more quickly, so you'd have to be a bit more careful with where you're going. The spider's starting to look much more interesting. What we're doing here is just giving a little colour to each of the knuckles on the legs. This helps them stand out. You can see just a little bit of heat and instant char. It gives a much better result. Slight adjustment to the front. And no, I hadn't forgotten the other leg. Now, of course, what's happened here is it's softened the plastic. Just to show, turn the heat gun off. As I say, the plastic's a bit softened, so it's gone slightly flatter. So it still has some 3D shape to it, but still now looks a little bit flat. Now, you can see from this one, it stands up a lot more. This is because the bend down has been done at a much higher position, i.e. more magnets underneath. However, we can think about correcting ours. So we'll start again with our pile of little magnets. Add one to the top, again just to hold it in place. And as you can see, the legs are actually off the surface. It's easy to see looking at the shadows. So what I'm doing is just a quick bit of heat on some parts of it, and as you can see, the legs start to fold down. So they get a bend at a new knuckle point. And the spider's legs naturally bend there, so why not actually use that information? And as you can see from the shadow, that as soon as it gets warm, gravity pulls it down. What you don't want to do is continue the heat after it starts to move, because otherwise it will just dribble onto the floor. So there we have a much better looking spider. We just have to wait for a few moments for the plastic to cool so it keeps its shape. Because one thing you don't want to do is put it back on the flat and it just goes squished back down again because it's still too warm. These videos are actually in real time so that you can see exactly what's going on. And there we have it. A nicely shaped spider. And nicely coloured. Ready to go. Much better than straight off the 3D printer, which didn't look a lot like a spider, apart from just a spider shaped, but spider shaped isn't exactly the same.